If you've ever wondered whether peace and discipline can coexist, or how a neurodivergent parent navigates raising a child with empathy, you're about to meet someone who lives that balance daily. And here with us, we have Ms. 𝐊𝐿𝐴, who is a researcher, a counselor, a coach, and a visionary behind the global brand of Peace Discipline. But more than that, she's a parent who has walked the walk. So Karen, welcome to our Beyond the Box with Emma.
Thank you very much, Emma. I'm happy to be here.
I'm very happy to have you here with us. And if I may add, Karen is one of our regular experts that attend and lead and share her expertise with our parents during our quarterly Celebrating Neurodiversity event. And we are very grateful, and so are the parents very grateful for the knowledge that you share so graciously that makes everybody feel so comfortable. So today, I'm really honored to have you here with us. Without wasting any time, I'm going to ask you the first question, which covers a lived experience of a parent with a neurodivergent. So Karen, we have spoken about being autistic and raising a child who is on the spectrum. What did it take to truly understand your child, while at the same time you're trying to understand yourself?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I didn't actually know that we were autistic, right? And I raised two children, and I have to say that it's not necessarily more difficult raising an autistic child than raising my non-autistic child. Each came with their own strengths and challenges, and raising an autistic child doesn't have to be more difficult than raising a non-autistic child. I would say that both of my children had strengths and challenges, and I didn't know that my older child was autistic for many years. But I would say that when it comes to understanding, it was in terms of my instinctive understanding of my child, it was actually easier to understand my autistic child because I'm also on the autistic spectrum. So not that either one was difficult, but it was more obvious to me what my autistic child was needing a lot of the time, because I'm also autistic. So when eventually we decided to go the route of diagnosis, I sat through that assessment, answered all these questions about my child, and I was mentally checking the boxes for myself as well. So all the things I said yes to for Mika, I said yes to about myself as well. And I noticed that some of the things that I said no to about Mika, as in no, that's not really an issue, I was mentally going, yeah, but it was for me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I feel like in some ways it was more marked with me when I was younger. I had more social difficulty, I think. I had more obvious social difficulty. I did a lot more sort of obviously autistic things, like the repetitive movements and stuff like that, and repetitive behaviors. And but I guess in those days no one was really looking and diagnosing that amongst girls. So
it was not really different the way you were parenting.
No, I used, like, for example, I used the same discipline methods with both of them, because we talk a little bit about discipline today. But I mean, I was using the same methods of discipline with both of them. But the important thing was not, well, when I say the same methods with both of them, I'm talking about a range of tools that I was choosing from according to their needs. And so what I found is I didn't need a separate set of discipline tools for a neurodivergent child. And I think that's something very important to say. I think when people talk about disciplining a neurodivergent child, for one thing, there's a conception that, or an understanding that your neurodivergent child will automatically have more behavior problems. And that's not necessarily the case. They might be an easier child because they maybe just have this fascination with special interest and want to carry on doing that for hours and hours, and that might be easier for your parenting. for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or there are other things that might be easier for the parent, like the child might not have a filter and might just tell you things straight and be very honest with you about what's happening in their lives, which obviously many parents would love to have that characteristic in the child, someone who's just honest with you and tells you what's happening.
Absolutely. Wow. So a lot of insights here. Your parenting styles do not necessarily have to be unique for a child who's on the spectrum versus those who's not. So
no, and in fact, you often hear people saying, "Oh no, you can't shout at him because he's on the spectrum." Now, not true. We don't respond well when people shout at us, right?
Yeah.
As autistics.
Yeah.
But shouting's not good for other children either. So I always say to parents when I'm training parents, your neurodivergent child, your highly sensitive child, or your autistic child, or child with ADHD, they're like the roses on the end of the grapevines. So if you've ever been to Cape Town, you'll see these beautiful farmlands with grapevines, and at the end there's always this row of roses. Now I used to think that was just decoration, but it's actually functional because the rose is a more sensitive plant. And so whatever fungus or illness or whatever is going to strike the grapevine, it strikes the rose first. And then the farmer sees that and he knows what to medicate the rose, the grapevines with. And so the rose plays an important function in that way. So your highly sensitive or neurodivergent child is going to show more distress quicker with your with punitive, coercive, nasty approaches to parenting and discipline. But those approaches are also not helping the other children. So if you can get it right with the kind of parenting that a neurodivergent child needs, you're probably also doing well for your other children.
Sure. Wow. So much to learn, so much insights. And I think this is quite valuable for you parents at home who are also wondering, do I parent my child differently because they are neurodivergent? But as you can hear, that the example of a rose in the vineyards, and how important it is to make sure that you use the learnings from the response of your child who's on the spectrum in terms of how they respond, as she said, to punitive discipline measures, to actually gauge, is this going to work even for the child who's not on the spectrum? You have to have some level of consistency.
So what's going to be really important is to attune to your children. So I always, when I'm teaching about discipline, because nonviolent discipline is my area, right? As a professional, that's what I teach, is nonviolent discipline. So what I always tell people, it's not about a skill being good or bad in itself. Like people say, can I use timeout, or can I use reward, or can I use, whatever different discipline tool that they're using. And I always say that the tool itself is not good or bad in itself. You can't say to them, yes, it's fine, you can use timeout anytime. No. Would the child benefit from a timeout? Does the behavior call for a timeout? In other words, you have to attune to what the child is needing in that moment. And when our responses fit with their needs and signals, then we're going to have a good outcome. It's not about whether you should or shouldn't use timeout or reward or any other discipline method. So you can have a toolkit, a range of tools that you can use, and you could use those tools with neurodivergent children or non-autistic, or what we might call, some people call neurotypical children. It's not a very good word to use. But you could use the tools with any children, but the point is, does the tool fit with what that child is needing in that moment? That's what's really going to determine your success. Absolutely. So now, if you're a neurodivergent parent, if you're a neurodivergent parent with a neurodivergent child, it's maybe easier to attune because you're also similar. And so you can see easier when they're reaching their limits, when things are too much for them. You really feel it with them. You're like, oh my gosh, of course that would be too much for them because you're similar, right? But if you're a non-autistic parent parenting an autistic child, it's just harder to attune. It's harder to... and vice versa. But that doesn't mean you can't do it, because often as parents we have children who are really different from us. We really do.
And we still have to parent them in a loving and gentle way.
Yes, it doesn't matter. We're going to get a mixed bag. If you have more than one child, you already know how little you have to do with how this child is turning out. You bring them up in the same home. you parent according to the same values, but your children are just totally different to each other. And that's not even factoring in neurodiversity. They're just totally different to each other.
Sure.
And they will need different things from you. So,
and you as a parent, you have to step up. It's so nice to hear you've answered this next question, I think, in some of the answers that you have given. And so the question is, what are some unique strengths that you feel you have brought into the parenting because you are neurodivergent? I mean, I had one of them being attuned, right?
Yes.
You mentioned that as one. But what are
I mean, that would be an important strength for any parent. But I think being more attuned to my neurodivergent child, that was one advantage for me of being neurodivergent. I would say, like, this was a big strength for me as an autistic parent. And I think that this is something maybe we need to talk about more when we talk about neurodivergence. There's always this assumption that we only have social problems as autistics. People never talk about our social strengths. And we have them because we're socially different. Different, but not less.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of my strengths, I didn't realize at the time, was because I was that child that didn't just pick up social cues. I didn't just follow what people were doing socially. I didn't necessarily know what was expected of me socially. Because I needed to learn those things explicitly. In other words, somebody would have needed to ask me, please do this. And then I would have been happy to do it. Or this is what I'm needing, and tell me explicitly. The side effect of me being like that was that I never expected that from other people. So when I was teaching, or when I was caring for small children in the aftercare, at one stage I did that, or when I was parenting, I never expected children just to know what to do socially. Whereas most non-autistic parents do kind of have an expectation. Well, they should know.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, how would they know? So one of my strengths as a parent and as a teacher was I would always explain to children what I expect, explain what's going to happen, give them preparation, and ask very explicitly for what I want. Would you please go and get your shoes and put them on right now because your mom's coming? I wouldn't say, don't you maybe want to put on your shoes? That's not clear enough for me and my autistic mind. I would really spell it out clearly. Now, it turns out that all children benefit from that.
Absolutely, not just the neurodivergent.
Exactly.
Clear, unambiguous communication.
Exactly, exactly. And there were other strengths too. Like one of an autistic strength is we tend to be quite honest. And I'll say that my children really appreciated this about me, is that they could ask me something and they knew I would tell them the truth.
That's something I also appreciate with our neurodivergent students here.
Yeah, they tell you the truth.
They tell you the truth, and it's I think it's the best way to live, living around people that just tell you the truth.
Yeah, there's like a deep sincerity about it, and I so appreciate in neurodivergent community. Like some of the people I trust the most in life are neurodivergent people, because I know that they're not playing games with me.
Yeah.
So there was none of that game playing, nothing like that. And then I think also focus. I can't multitask. It's kind of what it's like being autistic, is that our brains process things in sequence, not in parallel. So because of my inability to multitask, when I'm focused on you, I'm really with you. I'm not trying to text at the same time or do something else or whatever. So the focus on parenting was quite deep. And I think that was another advantage.
That's very important, especially in this age where there's distraction everywhere. You have to parent, you're watching a movie, or maybe you're cooking, you're doing everything all at once. And I think as a parent, it can benefit kids a lot, not just neurodivergent kids, when you are focused on something or you're having a conversation with your child. So that's certainly a strength that I think more of the neurotypicals don't necessarily have, which is something to celebrate.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, I must say that watching non-autistic parents, to me, their level of multitasking is like a superpower. I'm like, wow, it would be cool to do that. Sometimes I think that. But I mean, I think each of us have our strengths and weaknesses, and we need to celebrate that autistic parents and other neurodivergent parents also bring strengths.
Absolutely.
And like, for example, when I work with autistic parents, one of the strengths I notice is that they're very good at implementing what I tell them. Like they'll come to me with a problem to solve, and they actually want me to focus on that problem with it, and then give them, like we talk about solutions, and then they go home and they actually implement. I can promise you that not everybody does that.
that could also be a result of your level of focus in making sure that you're giving them a solution that's implementable, right? So it's a
Maybe,
complementary
yeah.
strength, I think, on the neurotypical and neurodivergent.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it is that autistic parents have been such good implementers, but I've noticed, it's something that I've noticed with parents that I've worked with, they tend to, yeah,
To
implement
focus.
what
And
I'm telling them about the skills and that kind of thing. The other thing is that we tend to like certainty and predictability and structure, so we tend to create that for our children. And I think that another strength that an autistic parent often comes with is creating really good routines and rituals with their children. So something that our children really enjoyed, both of them, was the rituals, like the bedtime stories. We had other rituals that we always do, like, you know, we might have a movie night, or we might be having tiny tea, which is when we used to, you know, just like have a
those
little tea
little
party with
marks,
like the little, if it was real tea, you know, like, or whatever.
yeah,
Or
the
we did
trademarks.
special things that we did over and over. We had many, many rituals over the years as a family. And I used to give them lots of preparation for things. I would say, okay, tomorrow's going to be different because we're going to do things this way, or on the way home we're doing X and Y, because I would know that I would have needed preparation, so I would assume that my children also would. I also tended, because I suffer from sensory overload, I would tend to create very peaceful, predictable, calm environments, which help young children.
It does.
And on the other hand, I must say, this is where I was just genetically, you could say, blessed or lucky to get children that had similar needs to me, and that both children were quite sensitive. Although they're not both autistic, both children benefited from the kind of environment that I naturally created. And then occasionally I'd look at somebody else, like, you know, maybe a relative's child or children that I worked with, and I always think, wow, if I was your mom, you'd think I was like a terrible mom, because maybe
because
that child
everything
has
is
much more
structured.
of a need for spontaneity and really social. I've got two introverted children, so there was just a natural fit between how I was and how my children naturally are. But what if I'd had like a really extroverted child who needed something different? And this is also something that we need to be kinder to ourselves about as parents, is that the child you get is not always a natural fit with how you naturally are. So sometimes it's not a natural goodness of fit with
your personality, your way of doing things.
Yeah,
you
like,
have to adapt.
Yeah, like one mom was telling me how her child is very, very social and very approaching, and like he just jumps straight into action and needs a lot of novelty, and how that would pan out is that he always wanted to do new things every day, do stuff with friends. He would come up with new ideas and want to implement them on the spot. She by nature is cautious and introverted, and she's a working mom, so she'd come back tired. She's cautious and she's introverted, so her ideal afternoon would be, let's stay home. And her son would be like, let's go, let's try this, let's do that. And she just found herself saying no so many times, and then seeing how disappointed he was. And we had to talk about that. How do you create a better fit between what the two of you are needing? So one of the things that she did for him was send him to aftercare, which he loved because there was people there every day and he could play with his friends and whatever. So she had a little bit of breather after work, so she could get her introvert time, and then she'd come fetch him and she'd be ready to do stuff with him.
Wow.
So they found a fit.
They found a fit.
Even though they're different.
So this is some of the insights you wouldn't get anywhere else except from Peace Discipline, because you can imagine, I'm like the mom that, the child that Karen is describing, wanting to get things done on the spot, but you have given them some tools as to how they can kind of coexist in a peaceful way, while the child get what they want and the parent also get their moment. And this, I think you've kind of answered this third question, because it relates to what you've just said. What were the moments where your needs as a parent with a sensory or emotional, I don't know if to call it challenge or limits, I don't know why you call them limits, and how did you handle that?
That was very, very hard for me. In fact, there was a point in my life where I said, I'm never going to have children. I didn't even know that I was autistic yet. Now it makes so much sense, because for me, it was just such a scary possibility of my children needing things that were just overwhelming for me. And I've only got so much bandwidth every day. And once that's used up, then I'm just fried.
You're finished.
I'm fried. Right. And I think we all have that, but I reached that point much quicker. So I think on a sensory level, it was very exhausting and overwhelming to be a parent. And things like the lack of sleep, when your children are not sleeping well at night, when they're babies and that kind of thing was a real challenge. Also being a working mom. And just reaching sensory overload. So I did find ways to look after myself in that regard, but I knew I have to look after myself because my children are the direct beneficiaries of me being more okay. So that could mean little things like if I had to go to the shop with a child, I'm not going to say, yeah, sure, run around in the aisles. It's going to be like, you have to be in the trolley.
Yeah, it's order.
Yeah, there has to be some order because I can't multitask between looking after you and the shopping. And actually, if possible, just not take the kids with me.
Sure.
So in those early days, my husband often used to take the kids shopping, or we would just not take them at all.
Yeah,
he would manage that because it was just like a lot. But when I had to manage it, I had to be okay with doing what I knew I could manage, even if it's not what was the most fun thing for the child. Because that meant that I was going to be more together. So it was like letting go of your perfect picture and doing the picture that works for you. And taking like quiet time when I could. And my husband and I had this thing where we would like look ahead at the weekend, because this thing happens as a parent where you see the weekend coming and you think, oh, the weekend. And then you get there and the weekend's even harder than the week was. Because the kids are home with you and they may be bored and they want you to entertain them and they, you know, like you are exhausted and you're not, there's just so much that's expected of you. You don't necessarily get to rest. So what we would do is look ahead at the weekend, look at the things we had to do, and then carve up the rest of the time and go, okay, that's your off time and that's my off time. So each weekend we had time that we could count on for each of us, where the other parent is going to handle things with the children. And you could go out or you could stay home, but you would get your little bit of time to yourself to recover. Mostly that would just be like downtime at home for me. I didn't want to go somewhere. But things like that helped us survive, because I think on a sensory level that was one of the hardest things. Also just not being able to multitask. A parent, like the social expectation on moms to multitask is huge.
Absolutely.
And I can't do that.
So I like how you're saying that be practical, right?
Yes, right.
Let go of the perfect picture.
Yes.
Right.
Work with the picture you have.
Work with the picture you have. And from what I'm hearing in your answers is peace has been at the core of the work you've been doing for so long. Because a simple thing like going to the shop, you wanted to make sure there's peace as you go to the shop. You know, do you go with the child and therefore try to make sure that there's order? Or do you let the child stay at home or go with dad? Or, you know, so. And
we very quickly worked out that it does not help to take my autistic child to the shops. Like he's just overwhelmed, you know, like it's going to be, in fact, both children would prefer a lot of the time not to have been at the shops. So, it's very often if we think about the day ahead of time, we can make plans that accommodate the different people in the family.
Did you notice, this is a second last question, did you notice that certain traditional discipline methods felt particularly harmful or ineffective for your child?
I think there are many harmful and ineffective discipline methods that we use generally in South Africa for all children, not just for not just for neurodivergent children. So my life's work really has been about giving parents alternatives, because I would say things like shouting, obviously hitting and hurting children, shaming, humiliating, threatening, being coercive in any way, and just treating children with disrespect generally is going to be bad for any child. So yes, if I ever did slip into anything that was more harsh, I mostly didn't, I must say, because I really cared about this area. This was my life's work. I'd been already practicing peace discipline for years with the children I worked with at school. So by the time my own children came along, my husband and I were both experienced in using nonviolent methods, and we brought our own children up like that. And actually our home was very, very peaceful with that. But I do generally notice with any child that the moment a parent steps into any of those things that I mentioned, it goes badly. And it would be harmful for any child. I don't want to single out neurodivergent children that way.
Sure, very, very well answered. I think as parents, there's a lot of reflections we need to do. And as we're learning, there's a better way. where you can get the results you need or you wish for as a parent by applying peace discipline. And I'm hoping at the end you'll be able to go to peacediscipline.com and get in touch with Karen and to see if some of your discipline approaches fall within what she has covered. And it's not too late to get help for yourself. So in those early years, what would you say helped you the most to stay regulated when things got or felt overwhelming for you as a parent?
Okay, supportive husband helped a lot.
Okay, having support.
Having support.
Yeah.
We were also very blessed to have family support where both of our parents, our sets of parents lived in Cape Town. So we could sometimes have a break with parents caring for our children. Have a break. But yeah, I think some of the things I've mentioned already, like understanding sensory overload and understanding that if my bandwidth is finished, I can't bounce back from that. I actually have to ask for support and go and lie in a darkened room or do whatever it takes to recover.
So you shouldn't wait until your bandwidth get finished.
It's really better not to.
Okay.
It's really, any parent is not going to wait.
Absolutely.
So I always say to parents, you get this thing with discipline, especially like where people are like, they try to be patient, but they're getting to the end of their tether. And then when they finally run out of all bandwidth, patience, whatever, now they put the boundary, and it's not pretty.
That's not the best.
It's not the best time. So I say to parents, don't wait till then when you're at the end of your tether. That's a terrible place to be putting your boundary. Put your boundary when you feel a little bit uncomfortable. So I think that was one of the most helpful things for me to learn, because I was learning about boundaries and experimenting with boundaries and developing the model of nonviolent discipline. I learned to put a boundary when I was just a little bit uncomfortable, so that I still had lots of bandwidth left to deal with the child's reaction.
Absolutely.
And then I would manage it so much better, and I'd be able to stay calm. So that was one of the things that really, really helped me, is to be self-aware, to notice when I'm starting to get uncomfortable and to take action and to have tools. Like having disciplined tools really helped me not to get too overwhelmed, because I could keep things calm. The children knew what's expected. Behavior didn't go too far out of
being unmanageable.
Yeah. I mean, that's not to say we didn't have many screaming tantrums and all kinds of things on the part of the kids, but we were able to manage it. So yeah, it wasn't easy, but
you got it done.
Yeah, I don't have regrets looking back as a parent.
That's amazing. So what I'm hearing is having support. And I know sometimes when we are raising our children, especially in this modern times, people don't have the luxury of having grandparents around. And sometimes, to a great extent, neurodivergence is still being looked at in some communities as more of a stigma. And so reaching out for support becomes even difficult because people don't know. Right?
And the other thing is, your child might not be comfortable to go to other people. So a lot of the time, we had to draw on family support or familiar environments, but not everybody has access to that. So a lot of the time for myself, it was also about being able to provide a calm environment for my children. Even if I had to provide that, just to make sure that
even though you couldn't probably
if I couldn't, we couldn't get support, because many times when you can't get support because nobody's available or whatever else, that you then don't take on too much with you and your child. So maybe you're doing something that's less glamorous, you're at home or whatever, but you're all staying regulated because you're not biting off more than you can chew. I feel like I may have gone off track in my answer.
No, you have not gone off the track. So I'm hearing you saying, if you don't have support, don't bite more than you can chew. It must be, there must be at the core of raising your child on the spectrum, you must want peace, right? And this means
we need peace for our nervous systems to cope. So let me give an example. I was chatting to one mom once, and she was saying, she just had the worst time because she thought it was going to be a nice outing. She took a child, and then she met her mother, and then they went to the market with the child, but they had to drive quite a bit to get there. But then by the time they got there was just like terrible meltdowns, and she was just like overwhelmed, and it was just like an awful day for all of them. But then we look at like what that actually took for her as a neurodivergent parent with a neurodivergent child. And first of all, going to a market, it's like a public place, a lot of people, that kind of thing. So it's officially, you grow up thinking it's a good thing to do because everybody else likes it.
Yeah.
And I think this is something I find with neurodivergent parents is often they've grown up and the message they've got, not even necessarily knowing they were neurodivergent as children, the message they've got is that thing that's bothering you, the glare, the sound, the crowd, that's not a big thing. In fact, that's not even a thing. That's a little thing.
Yeah.
So now it's like when I'm coaching them as parents, I have to help them to notice the things that bug them all over again because they've learned to override it in themselves. So this is a prime. Yes, they've learned to mask and to cover it. So they now tell themselves that's not a big deal. You shouldn't be stressed about that.
And that creates more anxiety.
Yes, and also overwhelm. So now you take this example. When she goes to fetch her mom, she now has to multitask between looking after her mom and her mom's needs and her child's needs. Her mind doesn't and she's driving. And she's also sensory sensitive. So now it's already a lot. So she's really getting stressed, but she's not really sure why, right? When we talk about it in the session, it makes complete sense and she knows completely why she was getting to overload. Now when we look at it after, she says, yes, I was feeling that, but I overrode it because I thought, don't be silly.
Yes.
You're supposed to, this is not a big deal, right? Then for both her and her child, the glare in the car is an issue, right, as they're driving. So now her child is dysregulating simply because of glare, and also there's stimulation of having mom and grandma, and they're going to a new place and whatever, and it started to get too much for him. And then they go from there out the car into a crowded place, and then he just started to lose it, right? And there was like there's like an instinct she had before she left of maybe just like to stay home. But she told herself, don't be boring. Don't be, because those are all messages she's got through her life as a neurodivergent person, that what she would naturally want, that quiet, predictable environment. And actually probably what her child also needs is not acceptable, and that she should be doing more fun things and she should be, you know. So she looked at it and she thought she probably would have managed an outing with her mom or with her child, but actually having to manage both, because both kind of needed her attention, was too much that day. So it's a lot about like learning to listen to your own signals and being attuned to that as well, and going like, okay, this is going to be too much for me today. It's not too much for me tomorrow, but it's too much for me today.
I've got lots of questions because if and I don't know if we'll be able to answer this today, but if I'm raising a child who's, maybe I'm putting myself in that mommy's shoes, she has promised the day prior that we're going to the market to the child, and the following day when it's time to go, she's not feeling really well, and she has to listen to this voice that maybe not today, you know, you've had too much, just rest and relax at home. And having to deliver that message to the child to say, my baby, today we can't go. I've reached the limit. That could be a challenge for a child who has been really looking forward to going to the market. And now at the last moment, they're being told you can't go. So
yes, I think this is the easier thing, like for myself with an autistic child, because he would have also just not wanted to go to the market.
Okay.
That was easy. In fact, like there was one point where I used to say like, okay, play dates is like so much for me, like it's a lot. And then I thought, I don't want to hold my child back. If my children want play dates, I should be able to do this. But it was hard for me because I'd be tired. I'd have worked in the morning and I'd fetch the kids, and I always still have to do a play date with other kids and other parents coming over and whatever. So I thought, no, I can do it if it's like in a structure. So I'll do it like every Friday, and I'll tell the children like one Friday you can have a friend, and then the other Friday the other one can have a friend, and we'll do play dates. You know, we lasted like 2 weeks, and my older one was like, do I have to?
Wow.
Like, no, you don't have to. I thought you wanted to. He's like, no. I've seen them at school. It's too much. I don't want them to come over. So there's where there's like a natural fit between me and the child, you know, like where we both needing we're needing that quiet, we're needing to recover. So it was relatively easy. But if I'd had a child that did need play dates, then I wouldn't have wanted to disappoint them. You know, like you're saying, the thing of like, yes, we can do the play date, or we can go to the market or whatever, and then it's like too much for me. So what I probably would have been doing is managing my bandwidth in advance. Like, I'm going to have to do that thing tomorrow, so what's it going to take? Absolutely. Am I going to need to rest first? Am I going to need to ask for support, for someone to come with and help me? Am I going to promise that in the first place? So I got quite good at like monitoring my bandwidth and being careful with what I promised. That was one thing. But if I have to let somebody down, then I'm probably going to say, okay, so but we can do it another day, and then make an alternative plan, and then maybe also do something else that they maybe would have enjoyed. Like, okay, so today,
like a substitute.
Yeah, but it would have to be like a calm substitute. Like, we can watch a movie. We don't normally watch a movie during the week or something like that. Or at home, by the way, not at the movies.
not outside where there's a lot of crowd.
No. Yeah, we're not going out of the home.
So I mean, it's very important for us as parents not to overstretch ourselves, because as an adult, really, you are responsible for creating the peace that your child needs, but also the peace that you need to be able to be parent at your best, essentially. So some of these things that you've heard from Karen, you will get to hear more. It's not the end, and there's quite a lot to unpack with her because of the experience, as I've mentioned earlier, as a neurodivergent parent who has raised young people who are obviously young adults now, who are on the spectrum, as a researcher, as a coach, but also as the leader or the founder of Peace Discipline, as I've mentioned. So Karen, this has been a really lovely chat, and if it was up to me, we will continue because there's a few other things we can still unpack. What are your last words to the parents at home, and particularly to the parent who is neurodivergent? We had one of them on our last event celebrating neurodiversity, who had poured his heart out about how he manages his own ADHD before his child comes. It's really touched my heart. So what are your last words to the parents that are neurodivergent at home and they have to manage themselves so that they're their best self to manage and support and nurture their neurodivergent child?
Yeah, so I teach peace discipline, right? In other words, non-violent ways to manage children's behavior. And I always say to parents, it's no use coming on these workshops and learning about peace discipline and trying to do all these non-violent things with your child, and then you go home and beat yourself up because you didn't do something perfectly. But we need to actually handle ourselves with compassion and grace as well, right? So just be gentle with yourself, because your child is the direct beneficiary of you managing better. So stay in tune with your own needs as well as your child's needs. It's not only about how you discipline your child. It's also about you looking after you and looking after your relationship with your partner if you are parenting with a partner. And then what I want to say to parents as well is there are resources available. You can go on peacediscipline.com. There's a toolkit that's free. You can go and look up some of these nonviolent discipline methods. You can go on the YouTube channel, Peace Discipline. You can watch videos about these nonviolent methods. Because let's face it, we didn't grow up with this, right? We didn't grow up with nonviolent discipline methods. So when we think discipline, there's not a lot that shows up in our toolkit that we can really feel comfortable using.
Or we can relate to.
So
especially
for
within
parents
the
who'd like
African
to, so parents who'd like to stock their toolkit a little bit, I found personally that could help a lot, because I felt more confident and peaceful as a parent because I knew what to do. Like, I knew that if a child misbehaved or their behavior was particularly challenging for me, I had tools in my toolkit that I could deal with that. So I wasn't feeling as overwhelmed. Whereas if you don't know what to do, you live in constant fear of that moment where your child melts down or doesn't behave well, because you're not really sure what to do. And that's when parents also start reaching for the more coercive methods. So those tools are available to parents on peacediscipline.com. The videos available on YouTube. So I'd love it if the parents made use of those resources.
Yeah, we'll make sure we at peacediscipline.com and the details on how you can get hold of Karen, because as parents, we need all the help we can get to make sure that we don't cause damage to our children as we are raising them, and hopefully in a what's the English word? Non-violent way.
Non-violent way.
Yeah, a way that we didn't grow up with. You know,
Yes,
from school to home, you got disciplined, even in the community, in a violent way, which for some and for many, there's still trauma as a result.
There is, there is. And you know what? You actually hear parents saying now, you know, okay, well, hitting children, it's cultural, right? And then I always ask them, like, are you sure it's cultural or is it post-traumatic? Right? Because in societies where we've had things like slavery, colonization, in our case, we've had even more like apartheid, everything like that. But in societies where there's been that kind of trauma, you will always find that people on the receiving end of those atrocities are more likely to beat their children and use harsher methods. Whereas if you were to go back in time, like they've actually done studies where they've gone back, say, for example, in America, many African-American families are there as a result of slavery, right? Years and years before that. So if you go back to the countries where those people were stolen from and you look at the parenting methods before that terrible thing happened, they were much gentler. So it's not actually cultural, it's post-traumatic. And that is part of what we're having to deal with now in Africa as we decolonize, as we try to heal from all of these things that have happened. One of the things we need to look at is how are we parenting and what of that can we let go of? And how can we return to the respect, which is actually the deeply African value of respect? How can we return to methods which really teach that?
Sure. Wow, this is very deep. It's much deeper than what I expected.
Getting more than you bargained for,
and I'm actually very curious, but because of time, we will not continue.
To be continued.
As you can see, our expert Karen is as a researcher. Also, you can see how loaded her insights are. Even taking us back to the fact that this peaceful discipline methods wasn't there in the past. I'm intrigued, and I would like to have you back, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about that from you.
Sure.
This is awesome.
Okay. So thank you very much, Emma. It's been a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
So for those who are wanting to find out more about Peace Discipline, you can go to peacediscipline.com. You'll find a toolkit there. You'll find a research tab where you can learn more about the research I was mentioning to Emma. Find published papers there. It's really up to you how much you want to get out of it, whether you want just brief descriptions of the tools so you know what you can do if your child's misbehaving, or whether you want to do the deep dive and find out about the research. You can also find resources on YouTube, the same videos, some of the same videos on TikTok and Instagram as well. And it's called Peace Discipline. Just look up Peace Discipline on YouTube. And of course, you can join the mailing list. I would actually recommend that. If you go on the website and look just under the logo, there's like a gold colored bar there that says sign up. And you can link to the mailing list and sign up for the mailing list. And then I'll actually send you links to videos as I make them, and let you know of upcoming events and courses and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So we'll also make sure to add that Peace Discipline link that leads direct our expert, Peace Discipline founder. Discipline doesn't have to be loud or powerful. It can be soft, boundary, a quiet understanding, a look that says, I see you and I'm here, even in the storm.